You don't need a big software team to create something great. And I believe in the UK you have all the building blocks that would be required. You have a few OEMs, various sizes. You have, semiconductors, system engineering, software. It's the overall integration that I guess one would need to focus on to build something successfully.
What strategies do companies use to maintain the software over a long vehicle life? Can today's vehicles ever become a classic car? I think this is somewhere where we differentiate between fleet vehicles through to the kind of vehicle that you're involved with. But to give you a chance to think about that, I think I'll ask the other panelists to give a thought first about the life cycle of software and how long that could be. Anybody want to jump in first?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think for me, the life cycle of software, life cycle of hardware of the car is, are you willing to pay for it? So I would want the software in my car to be updated and maintained for 5 years, and I'm willing to pay for that. Beyond that, am I willing to pay for it? I come from very much the world that the market will force it if we're willing to pay. So I'd want my security bugs updated after that, but not much beyond that, I think. Because I remember I'm Scottish, it's what I'm willing to pay for.
I'll add to that. I think there's already some legislation that says 7 years after end of life for safety and security. Okay. But I think there'll be customer demand beyond that. So yes, it's how much the OEMs are willing to pay for, how much the customer will pay for through feature as a service. Stefan, do you want to add?
Yes, I'm probably going in the same direction, but I think we also need to differentiate a bit about what kind of software we're talking about. So we as an operating system supplier, our software we provide is typically very stable. So there's no need to update our part of the software on a quarterly or yearly basis.
Hopefully.
Yes. that may be totally different for upper software layers, and obviously for security related boxes, you don't want only to have an update if it's necessary because of a patch, but otherwise you don't want to touch it.
Leo?
Yeah, I think in general I agree with the two colleagues here. So there could be a room for a mix between, commercial off-the-shelf solutions and open source, and that's where the most collaboration happens. I think having a mix of these two worlds will be the best, foundation for moving forward towards the journey of SDV. Because you can benefit from the stability of the commercial solutions while gaining or harnessing the rapid pace of innovation from the open source side.
And before I ask you, Paul, I'll give you the nice positive side as well. So we've also got a question about, can this be used to personalise and add value to the vehicle and extend the life and reduce depreciation of the vehicle by adding features over life?
So I think for Aston Martin it differs from the mainstream because our cars can be available in 50 years' time. So it's a very difficult question. It's a very difficult thing to be able to... I think one of the ways Aston Martin have looked at it is take the personalisation off the car. So with the introduction of CarPlay Ultra, yes, we have invested in an Apple product. We are partnered with Apple. But it allows us to introduce new features that we don't have to download onto the car, but can be available on your smart device. That's one way we've looked at how we can improve the longevity going forward.
Thank you. Just looking down the questions, we've got a few that I guess are similar. And I guess a comparison with another industry, aerospace software is typically not updated over life. Why would over-the-air updates be acceptable to automotive? How do we make them, or ensure that they're safe, that they're validated? I guess that ties into one of my poll question, but anybody want to jump in?
I'll go first again. Dave hit the nail on the head earlier on with the introductory talk. It's a massive challenge to get the idea of you have to be able to test all your software in that digital twin in the cloud and be able to deploy it with a 100% certainty that it will work. We're not there yet. We can do it for some aspects, but we have to get there. there's data that shows that, you know, with the SDV, you might, one person will take one update, one person will refuse one person will take a bug fix, one person will refuse one. So every vehicle on the road, even if it's the same model, will have different software. Every vehicle will be unique. How do you test that on a hardware platform? You cannot. You physically cannot. So you have to do that in a cloud-based environment, and you have to be 100% sure. We're not there yet. But that's where the effort has to go into that testing regime, so we can get the confidence. And it's confidence down to ASIL-D levels. Otherwise, this will not work.
I think for me, one of the key factors is ensuring your left side, your requirements from the beginning, are fully secured and locked down from a hardware perspective. You have to build your platform from a hardware perspective that in effect every single car is the same, and all you're doing is then configuring the car. It's a very difficult challenge for the entire industry, with OEMs with multiple brands. It's easier for Aston Martin in some way because we have a very unique position, but for the bigger brands, I think locking down that hardware from a large to a premium vehicles is a really, really very difficult challenge. Because then by locking down the hardware, you're reducing the validation effort.
Yeah, so for me, the success of TA really, depends on how we would successfully be able to abstract the platform. So that's also the main discussion which I had with some of major tier ones and OEMs here around Europe. So they want to have a hardware agnostic platform, and also, cloud first approach to be able to ensure the validation really early with this CFLAF concept, and then be ready, before being ready to deploy it in the vehicle itself. So I think that's the main key to have a successful OTA strategy.
Yes, I would only like to ask maybe one thing. Specifically, you mentioned the aviation industry, and I believe specifically for the UK, with a strong background in those kind of aviation systems, there's definitely probably a lesson to be learned about how these guys are developing software. Now, the overall system is a bit different, right? They may have hardware redundancy, something you cannot afford in a car, but still these guys over decades have learned how to do proper software development, making sure the software they roll out is in good shape.
Thank you. Brendan, can I just add one other comment to that? It's what Paul said there about software updating, what's hardware and what's software. I actually think we need to redefine what's software and what's hardware. If I look across at that, the third architecture I showed that we call consolidated compute, the end nodes, smart end nodes, and the zone aggregators, they're probably processors. They will not run customer software. They can be called hardware. Some OEMs are actually thinking of it, we'll call them wires, but it's a node, it's a box. Nah, we'll call them a wire. So you then are trying to reduce the scope of what you're actually having to test, and it just ideally comes down to that central box. Consider everything else locked, fixed function, don't care what's inside it, because that's done once.
Thank you. So I'm going to combine a couple of slightly more technical questions into one. And it's to do with deterministic hard real-time that those of us that have worked in embedded control systems are used to, and how they can be achieved in software-defined vehicles, so really in zonal architectures, in centralized architectures, and how we make those work today or in the future, when in the past trying to combine everything into that centralized compute hasn't really worked in automotive. So if anybody wants to jump in on that one, not everybody has to. But
Determinism went ages ago. Determinism went ages ago as soon as we started using caches. So real time, yeah. Hard real time, yeah. But real time's a spectrum. There's no such thing as, it's a bit like the SDV. It's not black and white. If you start thinking about what's the OS tick in the vehicle, you've got a schedule. You've got a time limit when things need to happen. So you can start looking at, again, if I look at the vehicle, 3 layers of processing, some things need to be processed at the edge. Absolutely. Combustion engine, you're never going to run your cylinder sparking or whatever from if you're fuel injection from the centre. You will be surprised the things that you can run from the centre though. So we've got 1 millisecond control loops, motor control loops running from the centre going through a zone controller to the end. 1 millisecond, that covers a lot of the vehicle. You're probably running chassis control, 1 millisecond. You can run outer loop motor control for inverter, 1 millisecond, pretty easily, but not combustion yet. So some things we'll have to see at the edge, absolutely. The challenge that somebody gave us was, can you run ABS from a centre? Give it a crack, see what happens.
Could be an interesting experiment if you can make redundancy.
You've got to know where your boundaries are.
Anybody else want to jump in on that one, or go for it?
Yes, maybe a quick comment. I mean, basically for such real-time systems, the overall system engineering is the key part. You have to understand the complete system, and you have to, literally pick the right building blocks, make sure that you have enough processor power, enough resources, small enough software to be capable of achieving this. Otherwise, you will fail.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to jump in on that one? Or we've got a completely different one to mix things up. So, if the panelists would put their own money on it, where would be bet for the UK to have a chance to win or at least compete in the SDV Wild West? So, where are the opportunities? We're back to that question for the UK in this space.
So I'm not from UK, but I'm based in Germany. So, but I think the way I see it, I think also with discussion with my customers is the European or Western automotive industry has put a lot of effort or a lot of attention in making ensure a safe system in automotive. I think that's the key. I think there was some discussion with some customer what happened in China, for example, some accident with some major brand there. So China didn't look so much into the safety and security until that time, but after that incident, I think they will put more safe and security. Of course, they are ahead maybe with the China pace and so on, but having the tradition and legacy to put safety and security first in the Western automotive industry will be beneficial for the industry moving forward.
I think it goes back to the question, what is a software-defined vehicle? There's no one right answer, I don't think, for anyone. Going back to the Stephen's around the, Andy's, around the centralised compute. That probably is the right answer for a big OEM, but it can't be the right answer for Aston Martin. One reason is how many people do I need to create the ADAS software and the infotainment software? It far outweighs the scale of Aston Martin is today, just to develop a central compute. So we have to find other options because there are other brands around us like that. I think we have the skills in the UK to do it, but it's going to be a challenge. But if anyone could find that one solution, I think they'd be very rich.
Brilliant. Anybody else want to jump in on that?
I still maintain the biggest challenge is this idea of being able to test over 100% confidence in the cloud and then deploy the vehicles. That's the biggest challenge, but I think that's going to take a collaboration to solve. So I wouldn't invest my money in that. I would invest my money in data usage. I think there's some really clever, innovative ideas that are coming from some of the startups. Virtual sensing is cool. Predictive maintenance is cool. And if I was about to go and start a startup today, that's where I'd be looking.
Yes, of course. I have another comment from maybe an outside look to the UK. You don't need a big software team to create something great. And I believe in the UK you have all the building blocks that would be required. You have a few OEMs, various sizes. You have, semiconductors, system engineering, software. it's the overall integration that I guess one would need to focus on to build something successfully.
Thank you. So jumping from that, we've got a question here. Going slightly more the fun side of SDV, what do you see as the opportunities, the value-add opportunities, the extra features? What sort of exciting ideas, without giving anything away, do you think could come from the software-defined vehicle space? The sort of motivations that might tempt customers.
So I can start with something that Andy brought up earlier. If you enter a modern car, the user interface is quite complex. But ideally, if I go for a rental or borrow a car, I want to get inside and have the car look exactly like I want it to look, understand where is the button for the volume or for the AC or for the seat heating, and it should be kind of intuitive, the way I want it. If the car can adapt to that, that would be great for me.
I think that's what CarPlay Ultra does.
Oh, you're still thinking. I like some of the ideas around the drivability of a car. So when I go to work, I just want it to be, I want to focus on economy and safety. In the weekend, maybe when the family's not coming with me, I want to focus a little bit on handling and speed. I might want to actually buy a few extra horsepower this weekend. It's a boys' weekend away, so a few extra horsepower, please. So I like the idea of being able to tune my car for my use that day. I can't do that today.
From my experience, from vehicles I've driven and experienced, I haven't seen anyone really do anything with, in my opinion. My Mercedes, in Halloween, it will put some pumpkins on the screen, and for Christmas I get a Santa Claus hat. It doesn't add any value to the. It makes my kids laugh.
Nothing you pay for yet, then?
Nothing I pay for yet, I don't think. So I've yet to see any company, maybe I'm wrong, but I've yet to see anything that I've experienced that's actually brought value and I would pay for.
So for me personally, I think the small step of an example how SDV can succeed in terms of feature would be maybe a software-defined audio, because this will give differentiation in the car, to have an advanced audio features in the car with noise cancellation and driver, passenger communication and so on. These are small things, but it will be attractive for the majority of the end users. That's why also we as company also investing in that direction.
Thank you. So let's take the value in a slightly different direction then. Will SDV finally open the door for greater collaboration, integration with network operators, systems to enhance traffic efficiency, safety, things like that? Again, anybody can jump in first. This one might be slightly less relevant for Aston Martin, I don't know.
I think the answer is it should do. Who's going to go first? I think it then just become a priority list for the OEM. What's their biggest issues to get resolved first? But yeah, I'm obviously from a different part of the supply network, but I think that makes sense to me. I remember listening to somebody from Jaguar Land Rover talking at this conference. It's probably about 6 or 7 years ago. That shows my age. I've been here for too long. And they were asked what was the biggest part of customer feedback on their vehicle. And it was a satisfaction survey. And the biggest feedback that they got was the connectivity going down a particular motorway. And it was so frustrating because it's nothing to do with their vehicle. But that was the biggest bit of customer feedback they got. So it is incredibly important. And that's what some of the OEMs will have to address when the time is right.
Yeah, I think in general the network coverage is the main challenge here if we want to involve them, because we still see a lot of issues in connectivity throughout the small areas, small populated areas. So of course, again, cloud is inseparable from SDV, and the way to reach cloud is through the connectivity. But we need to work with the network operators to solve the coverage issues. Yeah.
Thank you. So we've got, I guess, a couple of questions that relate to, if I find the one I had, about the functional safety, about the sort of assurance of safety when we're doing rapid iterations of software over-the-air updates. How do we still meet those sort of automotive safety standards that we're used to in a software-defined vehicle? Has anybody got, I guess, thoughts on the validation cycles and things that are needed to do that and how they can be accelerated?
I think from my side, for rapid over-the-air updates, the validation behind that doesn't change. From the validation you put into production to the validation you run out to OTA, in fact, it's probably, you have to do more validation because you then have to validate a fleet of vehicles before you do the OTA update to make sure that OTA update is going out. So I'd say the functional safety validation aspect doesn't change because you still need to protect the customer. In fact, as I said, it's probably greater for an OTA update.
So we've done a few projects in that area where we try to align newer development activities like agile development with functional safety project, and it's possible and it works. The validation doesn't change, obviously, right? Some of the roles maybe have to be adapted a little bit and redefined, but overall it's still possible to achieve the goal.
Okay, if anybody else wants to jump in, or I've got another one. I think Dave Nesbitt touched on it earlier, but connectivity is not a guaranteed thing everywhere SDV needs to operate. Is that a limitation? Is that a challenge? How does that affect SDVs and consideration of SDV development?
It's a challenge, but it can't be a limitation. It cannot be a limitation. I come from the Glasgow, so we've got decent coverage. My weekends are spent in a small island on the west coast, so zero coverage. It's brilliant. I love it. Nobody can get hold of me. It's great. But the SDV has to be able to cope with that. Has to be able to cope with zero coverage, patchy coverage, and all the rest. And it's just another requirement. You know, engineers love requirements. That's another one. So it cannot be a limitation.
Okay.
I think I agree. We have to define the vehicle in a way that we have to live without connectivity. I think we probably all drive around the area, and I know my drive home every evening, and I'm calling my wife, and I know the black spots I hit, and we tend to live with it. Yeah. So we just have to live with the vehicle is going to behave like my phone, and we've all accepted connectivity on the phone. It's an education piece to the people, to the vehicle owners, that it is exactly the same if that feature is not available.
Yeah.
If you do not have connectivity.
Well, I guess the development has to go hand in hand, right? So with a certain amount of software-defined vehicles on the road, if they suffer from certain areas not being fully connected, then obviously there may be some driving force to kind of get into action and achieve coverage in those areas. But without the requirement of SDVs being there, it may not be enough critical mass behind the request for full coverage.
Okay. So I think the poll's back on the screen, and if we can go to the end version so people can vote again and see if anybody's changed their mind through the discussions we've just been having. And while people are considering that, I guess we've got one maybe more fun question here. Paul's carefully mentioned Apple CarPlay Ultra a couple of times. I don't know if you noticed. Do we think that's going to dominate the market, or does Android or OEMs' own implementations in the big OEMs, some of them have definitely sort of moved away from Apple? Where do we think the market's going there? Is there a single answer? Possibly not.
I don't think there's a single answer, but it's an option for the customer. You don't have to use Apple CarPlay Ultra, but it gives you that option. It gives you the customization. It gives you the accessibility. I think we all know some of the best UI designers in the world are Apple. So there's the products, infotainment solutions on the market today all have challenging UIs, I'd say. So to give the customer an option of something that is customizable, perhaps in the future you can go in and adapt your cluster to be your personal preference, add applications which are not related to the vehicle but can bring additional features from the vehicle, I think is definitely brings a lot of positives. It's not going to be for everyone, like Android. If you have an Android device, you don't get the experience, but by Apple.
Thanks. Quickly.
Yeah, a really quick one. I really like CarPlay, but I would, sacrifice any adaptability, flexibility whatsoever for total reliability. Whether it's something else, but if it works perfectly, I'm fine with whatever you call it.
That's a good answer. So before everybody can go to lunch, I was going to say thank you to the panelists. It does appear that we're a lot less worried about the tier ones in the UK, looking at the poll answer, both start and finish, but maybe that reflects the current sort of UK ecosystem. But I don't think the top answer changed much. But thank you, everybody, for your attention. Thank you to the panelists, and I think lunch is now served.